I'm Jeff Geiger, and with me today is Carter Brown, founder and CEO of GoGuide. GoGuide's a platform for the outdoors, and Carter's going to tell us a little bit about that in a minute. But main thing is that a couple years ago, Carter approached me and had an idea that wanted to know if I was interested in helping him to achieve. And so we set out to build the GoGuide platform. Carter, why don't you tell us a little bit about the platform?
Essentially what GoGuide is it is a platform and a system that we have built for the guiding industry. So the initial part of what we do, because we have two pieces, and I like to first start with why we do it. Why we do it is that we are on a mission to be able to grow the outdoor industry as a whole. And I believe the best way to do that is to help the individuals and the businesses. And the first product that we have built within our suite of products is the GoGuide Outdoor Office, which is a fully functional business tool that we provide to guide services, tour operators, pretty much anyone who provides amazing trips in the outdoors, that saves them time, helps make their life easier, and basically does all the business side of what they don't like to do. We mainly sell to fly fishing guides today. So if you think of a fly fishing guide, there's a lot of reasons that they maybe started fly fishing, but one of them was probably not to run a business. They wanted to do what they actually love to do in the outdoors. We built a system that enables them to do that easier than ever before. And then we also have some future things coming out that will be more directed for customers of guided trips to be able to not only connect them to amazing outdoor experiences and the best trips that the outdoors has to offer, but actually inspires them to do so. And by doing those two things, we have an opportunity to be able to grow the outdoor industry as a whole.
It's been quite the journey over the past, how many years has it been now? 3 years going on?
Yeah, so I guess we met,
I think it was December of 2020.
Yeah, I was a senior in college.
Yep.
I graduated in 21.
Yep.
So
that sounds about right.
I originally kind of started working through the idea that summer leading into my senior year.
Okay.
And one of the first things that I did was I started building prototypes of it. And then pretty much asked everyone that I knew, do you know anyone who knows how to code? Because I didn't.
Right.
So through that, I was able to get connected with you.
Yep.
Gave you a pitch that
it would be a different pitch than today.
Not nearly as good as the pitch that I give investors today.
Right. There are some things that hadn't been worked through yet that have been.
But I think you saw something in it and what we were trying to achieve, and I think you saw something in me of, there's legs here, and being able to pair what you do and your skill set, your resources with what I was trying to build was a very good first step to make that happen.
Right. Yeah. What I saw in that initial pitch was, number one, it was an idea similar to, or at least in the same vein as other things that I had thought of in the past. And you alluded to this a little bit earlier about there's ideas everywhere. Everybody's got ideas. I think I heard somebody say ideas are like belly buttons. Everybody's got them. The real difference is that of being able to take that next step and make something happen with it, and be willing to put some of that effort into achieving that goal and making that milestone happen. The other part was I've come to realize that you need somebody who's got the fire and the passion and the guts to be able to go that next step. And then fourth, you can't escape it. You've got to have the skills to be able to do it too. You can have all the fire in the world. If you don't have the skills to be able to do it, you have to either be able to work so much harder to go get those skills if you don't have them, or you're just simply not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be successful. So I think that culmination of events, situation, whatever, that's what led me to say yes on that. And maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, but if you knew all the hurdles that you had to overcome before, like all at once, you knew them a long time ago, you knew them on December 20th of 2020, would you have gone down this path if you knew these hurdles?
I actually always say that I never knew how hard it would be to build GoGuide. I never knew how hard it would be to build software. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I don't know if I would have started.
Right.
And knowing myself, I probably would have.
Yeah.
But it is a funny way to frame it as, would I have done this if I knew all the challenges that came up? And I'm glad I did, because I think we both sit here with a lot of lessons.
Right. Absolutely.
From doing it, that we'll take into future endeavors. And it's little simple things that seem obvious. And so this year I've been reading every single day. And what I've come to learn from reading every single day is that most things you're not getting taught. Like, most things aren't new information. It's more just reminders of things that you already know to be true. And there's a lot of those that have came up through this. And one thing I think we've both gotten better at is you go through different stages of trying to build a company. And early on, you have to say yes to everything.
Right.
And then there becomes a tipping point where saying yes is going to be more detrimental to your business than saying no.
Right.
And you have to retrain your brain to switch to saying no to more things than you're saying yes to, because your focus and your attention and your resources is your number one asset. And
it's not a value judgment on the opportunity or the need at a customer or whatever. It's that it's just not a clear fit anymore, or the cost of it in time or even worse in morale, team morale, isn't worth it.
So what would you say, like, looking back on it, if we were to do it all over again, what would you do? What would you do differently? What would be your process to take something from the idea stage when I first brought GoGuide to you, to where we're at today?
That's a great question, and this has been something that we've kind of learned along the way here. And I've already started to introduce this to some of my customers. Number one, it would be have a clear vision. Number two, you have to take that clear vision and turn it into something tangible in a prototype, especially when you're building something from scratch, is to have a prototype. Third would be, I think, repeating what we did, which is taking that prototype and getting some first adopters. And this isn't the case where you're building a brand new business, but get some first adopters and then get feedback from them and let them help you design and build the system, because it's their problems you're trying to solve. And through that, you build traction, which we talked about traction. And then from there, you can go get more people behind your idea. So in the case of GoGuide, it was, we didn't build a prototype first. We had a wireframe that you had built, which is pretty good.
It was bare bones.
It was pretty good. It was better than you see coming out of most like college type classes and things like that. But it wasn't adequate to what we ended up doing. So build a prototype, and then go out and get some traction. We talked about that, and get some feedback, prove that it's an idea worth solving, and then go get go for it. And you know, the two things can work both in a startup and within an existing company. Because in an existing company, let's say, I wouldn't necessarily go recommend, for instance, go and buy this expensive package of software and then go push it and implement it. I would want to take a little bit more gradual approach to it, where you want to prove that that's actually going to solve your problem or not, because your problem might not even be in that.
You have to validate.
That's right. And that's probably been the number one lesson that I learned. And what would I do different? I would do a better job of prototyping, but that's part of what we learned.
So I've kind of broken this out in my mind, because everything that I do, I look at what is the framework behind what made it successful. And for me, there's 4 steps to launching either a brand new product and company or being able to launch a new product line or into a new market. And the 4 steps that I've been able to figure out for me that I think are repeatable is, first step, you have to do customer research and you have to do early validation. You're never going to get it perfect. What you think you're going to build is never going to be exactly what you're going to build. but you have to do early validation of it, and you have to get your prototype. You have to validate that it's a need. And if you want to get savvy with it, you can also find early partners. Okay. And if you can find early partners who are willing to help you develop the prototype, that is a great inclination that the problem that you think you're solving exists. Okay. And that there's a need for it. So the more early partners that you can get to buy into what you're trying to build, who want to help you do it, that is a great indicator.
So is that two separate things? Yeah. Customer research and validating, that's two separate things?
You do it all in the same step.
Okay.
So this is at the same time, you're also going to prototype.
Okay.
And you're going to use all those at the same time. So you're going to build prototypes, you're going to show it to early partners or potential customers.
Okay.
You're going to validate that not only is it a need, but what you're building is going to be right. So you can take away some of the pains of not having the right thing right away for when you launch it in step 3. Step 2 is you actually go and you build that product.
Okay.
So take what you learn in your customer research, your validation, your prototyping, build the product. And that's going to take time.
Yep. And
give it the adequate amount of time it needs. Step 3 is the hardest. That's where you have to launch an MVP. So step 2 is actually launch an MVP or build your MVP. You don't want to build the full product right away. Don't delay taking it to market. Get your bare bones product that you have.
Right.
Step 3 is go and do early sales. And I put quotation marks in early sales because really you're learning.
Right.
You're going to go out there and you're going to sell with the assumption that you're going to find some early adopters, but more so your job is to learn what you're missing.
Right.
Then go and build the rest.
Okay.
And in step 3, you have to do early sales, learn, and you have to iterate. Your goal in step 3 is to get to the point where your product can service 90% of your target customer. And through step 3, through those early adopters, you should be able to validate whether or not that target customer is going to be profitable. Step 4 is once you have your product to a point where you believe you can service 90% of your target market, right? You have to figure out how to spin your customer acquisition cost to your customer lifetime value wheel and get your customer acquisition cost to be lower than your customer lifetime value. And if you can get that automated, now you have a real business that's self-sustaining and it can run itself. And then you can go and you can do it again.
Right.
And that's kind of my 4 steps. So the 4 steps for me to launching a new product, starting a new company, launching a new product line is customer research, validate, prototype. Number 2 is to build the MVP. Number 3 is to learn from doing early sales on that MVP and iterate to the point where you have 90% of your target customers
are serviceable. Yep.
Step 4 is spin your customer acquisition cost to your customer lifetime value. And I think from the most simple standpoint of if I were to go back and start a business again, that is what I would do. And I would be very clear about what stage in the process am I at on this, because you don't need to be spending money on marketing until you're in step 4, maybe the very end of step 3. So many companies who go out and they raise a bunch of money, they get that backwards, in my opinion. I've seen it. I think that that's one of the benefits that we had from doing it bootstrapped.
And I think that you also can, like going way back to the beginning, spend a whole bunch of time building something that isn't meeting your goals, isn't going to solve the 90%.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's where the prototype comes in, is where you're validating that that's what you need.
And it's not only that you might not solve people's needs, you might be solving the wrong customers' needs because those wrong customers might not be profitable.
Right.
So you have to be able to, over the course of that process, you have to be able to validate the revenue model in a way that you can make it profitable. Or you just have to have an idea of how you can.
Right. And that's not to say that those customers aren't valuable of themselves. It's just it's not beneficial to anybody if your product doesn't go anywhere.
Correct.
Because then you're not helping anyone.
As a company, your number one job is to make more money so that you can build better products and solve more problems.
Right.
And if you do not make more money, you're not going to be able to solve more problems and make better products.
Right. Or invest in new ideas or new things. So.
And I think that a lot of people, like, that's a really simple thing that I can't believe is not said in business school.
Right.
Like, your job is to make the company as much money as you can, because that is your duty to your customers.
Right.
Because if you do that, you do it the right way with the right morals, you can create better solutions to bigger problems. But it's skimmed over. It's not even discussed. It's crazy.
I think the monetary side of it is kind of skipped over, maybe because they maybe associate it with greed or something like that.
It makes people uncomfortable, I think, but it's important, and that's why you have to be able to do that validation so that you can verify that target customer not only has your need, but it's going to be a profitable one that you can service. So I think that that's where, like with what you're doing, there's an opportunity for people who have that idea, because for me, I was not a technical co-founder. I didn't have any knowledge on how to build software. And a lot of people have ideas for software. But by being able to utilize your resources, we've been able to get that MVP to a point where I know that our product that we're building is going to help a lot of people. And that allowed me to go raise money and be able to get the thing built.
I think it speaks for itself if you go out on the Instagram page and look at some of the comments and some of the recent videos that you've posted out there. If you go just search straight up GoGuide, you might not exactly find it right away, but GoGuide.io on Instagram. You look at some of the comments put out there unsolicited by your customer base, by the guides and outfitters that are out there, unsolicited. Their comments are how great the product is, and that how big of an impact it's made in their lives. And that, I mean, having it's not like you called them up and said, hey, can you go and make this comment for me on this? They went out and did it themselves. So that speaks volumes.
And we invested in the right resources at the right time. Like I said, I think a lot of people, when they're starting companies, they skip steps. You have to validate first.
Or they try to do all of it at once.
Like, you don't need to have your Instagram blow up. Like, you need to validate that your target customer needs your solution, and then you need to figure out how to get an MVP of it built. And you might have to raise money to be able to do it. So the more validation that you can get, the higher
value you're providing to your investors,
the higher chance you're going to be able to raise money. And that's where, for me, we have kind of a secret project that we're working on right now of a next iteration. And what I can say about that is I have 8 partners who have been helping us build that next iteration.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
And in saying that to investors, when they ask, what are your next steps? It's like, this is what we're building next. This is the new market we're able to capture. This is the opportunity. And here's a little bit of validation that I don't just think this is a good idea, there's a need for it. And just having 8 people who say they'll use it and are willing to help you build it,
they're the ones
that's the credibility you need. And you can go raise money on that, and then you can be able to get something built. So you just have to validate your ideas and your problems as much as you possibly can. And if you can do that, then you can make a call to you, and you can get an MVP built.
Exactly. So let's talk about the software development life cycle. I don't know if you've heard SDLC. No, acronym that we've been following in building something in this iterative kind of approach here. What have you found through working with our team are some of the key secret sauce to be successful at building software?
I think it starts with being able to have a good team. And I also think that you have to...
So skilled individuals who care about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you have to have a pretty clear vision on what you want built. And that's where I come back to it a lot of times, is I would build a prototype. I don't know how many companies that are massive companies spend
sometimes millions of dollars.
Spend millions of dollars to build a new product line, and they don't build a prototype of it first. Like, if you're going to go spend $5 million to build a new product, go spend $50,000 first to build a prototype, and make sure
and show it around and get some feedback.
Make sure that you're building the right thing. But the other thing that I've found is that if you build a prototype and you give a prototype to your developers, they will build faster because they do not have to think about how it's supposed to work. They just have to make it work. And if you can take that off your developer's plate, you're going to get way better results.
I'm sure there's thousands of stories out there with people having an idea in their head and telling something to a developer, and it comes up to be something completely different from what their vision is. Do you think that having a strong product owner in that mix is a big part of it?
Absolutely. I think one of the best decisions that we ever made in GoGuide was to bring Seth in as the product owner. And
he translated your ideas and he was really clued in to that. He translated those ideas to the team then.
And he was a guide.
Okay, right.
So
I forget that sometimes.
He had an understanding of what our customers needed.
Right.
And he was able to communicate with them very well. And he was then able to learn how to take that and turn that into what the developers needed. And that is critical to make sure you're building the right thing, because it does take time, it does take money to build software.
Yep.
So you want to minimize the
you
amount
want to
of
be
times,
as efficient as you can.
Yes, you want to minimize the amount of times where you're going to rebuild something. And if you don't have a product owner who is on top of that, you're going to end up rebuilding a lot. And that's stuff that we did. Like that's speaking from experience of when I was product owner, and was juggling
all these other
6 other things, and then things would slip through the cracks, and I would think I said something clearly, and I knew what I wanted, and then I would see what was built 3 weeks later, and it wouldn't be exactly what we needed. So by bringing a product owner in whose whole job is essentially just make sure that the right thing gets built, it was a game changer. And those are the different stages that you go through. Is like when you're early on in the company, you don't know that you need that, but you do.
So let's talk about a couple of specific details in there. Would you recommend a 1-week sprint, or up as much as a 4-week sprint, or what in between would you recommend in an agile environment?
I think it depends on the scope of what you're building. So for us, we're building a lot of stuff that is groundbreaking and new and bigger features, bigger iterations that you're just not going to get something to show in a week, even though progress.
So 1 week would be too short in that case. Yep.
So for us, and we've tried all of them. We've tried 1 week, we've tried 2 weeks, we tried 3 weeks, and we've found that 3 weeks is a good cadence for us with the amount of
have you tried 4 weeks?
We haven't tried 4 weeks.
What do you think? I mean, just by your gut, what do you think that would do?
I think it would decrease urgency and efficiency. I think it'd be a little bit too long of a timeline.
So it's like your sweet spot is 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the reason 3 weeks works for us is because we have enough big features that we're working on every sprint, but we also have little features and little bug fixes and things that we can typically fit in, 2 to 3 big features with a healthy dose of little improvements. We also have done like hardening sprints. And hardening,
not doing any new things.
Yep, no new features. Hardening sprints is just what are all the little things we can do to make this better? How can we clean it up a little bit? And a lot of times we'll do those on a 1 week sprint. So like we're flexible. And I don't micromanage that. No. I kind of
let the team help figure that out. Yep.
And that took time to get to that point where we had that understanding of exactly where we're at and what we need. And the other thing I can say, like, to Seth's credit, is earlier I alluded to that when I first started the company. I think I'm in this position I am today because I said yes to a lot of things. And same with you. Like you said yes to being a part of this. What's shifted is putting a priority on saying no. What Seth has to do now that we are a more established company in that product owner role is he has to get a lot better at saying no.
And say yes to the right things.
Exactly. Because he's going to have me coming to him with big picture ideas that I want to be able to achieve. He's going to have Phil coming from sales and telling him, if I had this, I could close this deal.
And not to mention the dozen customers that are already live that are feeding ideas in.
Customers are bringing us ideas all the time. So his job is critical in making sure that we say yes to the right things and no to the right things. And that is a balance that you learn over time. And you have to be able to get good at it, which I think now we are.
So another detailed question is, what about using Microsoft's Suite and Stack with DevOps? How do you think the team has done with that, and do you think that's been beneficial?
Yeah, I'm not in it that much anymore, but it helps us track, and it helps us. Recently, we've been able to come up with what our velocity is. And we've gotten a lot better at predicting our how difficult an item will be. that might not seem like a super important thing,
Right.
but it's critical when I'm going and I'm raising money on basically me promising we're going to be able to achieve X by Y. And if I'm wrong in that, I have to eat the consequences of it. So being able to make accurate predictions of what we're capable of getting built is super important for raising money, but it's also super important for your customers because we make promises that, you know, we can get this done by this timeline. And once we made that transition from this is startup mode to this is now turning into a real business mode.
I think it's been about a year now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Once we made that transition, it made it a lot easier to have those conversations with customers, to have those conversations with investors. We've been getting more accurate with them. And I think people have a fear of saying you can't do something. Like we have customers call us all the time. And one of the things that I've learned about sales reps is that sales reps always will say yes.
Yes.
Like,
well, they want the sale.
They want the sale, and
they think that it's hinging on
they're just ambitious with it, and they think we can, which is not a fault of that at all. What Seth has done a really good job of is being able to give more accurate comments on it and being able to say no. Right. And say, yeah, we can't do that now. Maybe we can down the road. I can keep you updated on it if you want. Right. And more often than not, they're like, oh, okay. But if you promise that you're going to be able to do something, then you don't deliver, then you lose trust. So DevOps helps with that, to be able to make accurate predictions. That's where I've seen the most value from it. I'm not in it every single day, so I'm sure there's more.
But your product owner is.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Which is good. I'm not supposed to be in it every day.
That's right. Yeah. And so I've always been a big proponent of process and procedure and things like that. But, you know, that's also tempered with having a great team. And you have to have both. You have to have, you know, good solid process, good solid tools that you're using. And then you have to have a team you can trust.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that helped you to build trust with the team? I'm really shooting from the hip on that one.
I think it's very similar. Like when I look back on early on, I thought everyone could help and every new potential person was going to be the right fit. And I think I've gotten a lot better at being able to hone in on exactly what I'm expecting. And looking for the right person, waiting for the right person, picking the right person, putting the right people in the right places. Because you do have to be able to do that. And where we're at today now, I think we have a core team that is very capable of doing what we need to do in the next 12 to 18 months.
So GoGuide is ready for what?
GoGuide, I believe, is ready to change the way that the outdoor industry operates for the better. And it's ready to grow the outdoor industry as a whole. And it will be a process that will take time. But it starts with the individuals. And if you can impact the individuals within the industry and provide them with the tools to be able to scale and grow their own businesses and their own careers and their own ambitions, and you can make that easier, then you have an opportunity to affect the entire outdoor industry. Right?
So essentially, GoGuide is going to rise up to help the people participating in the outdoors and the outdoor industry, which is typically not highly technical, and help them rise up and meet a customer that is highly technical, and they want to be able to do things on their terms, book their event opportunities and their adventures, book them on their own.
Yeah, I believe when I look at GoGuide, I break it out from one big statement of grow the outdoor industry as a whole into two different pieces. And the first piece is that you have to provide the tools that guides need to be able to grow their own business and provide anyone who wants to make a living doing what they love in the outdoors with the tool set to be able to do that and do it smoothly so that they can focus on providing amazing experiences. The second piece of that is you have to not just connect, but you have to inspire people to experience the outdoors. And right now we are focusing more on the first, but there are big things coming on the second.
I can't wait to hear about those. Well, at J.Geiger Consulting, we're here. You know, our tagline says it, that we want to help our customers achieve their ideal outcome, and it's basically looking for that win-win-win in all the circumstances that are out there. And I think with GoGuide, we've had the opportunity to do that. we've helped some passionate individuals in the outdoors who are now in turn helping thousands of people out there grow and build their businesses. We're striving for 50 states. We're currently well past half of that,
and we've got a few more coming in the next couple days.
Yep. And do things with purpose and focusing on on the individual and on growing the team and building just a successful outcome out of persistent, knowledgeable, and passionate pressure on what it is we're trying to accomplish.
And what I can say is that our relationship with J.Geiger has been a competitive advantage for us. I'm sure that some of our competitors out there are wondering how we've been able to put out what we've put out. And when you look back at where we were a year ago to where we are today, it's actually incredible. It doesn't always feel like you're moving fast in the moment, but when you look back on everything that we've built, it's amazing how much we've been able to add to the system. And it has translated for us into being able to service the best clients within the industry, and they expect the best.
Wow, that's saying a lot. Yeah, and I mean, there's different ways you certainly can go about doing it, and this might not be the first way that you do think about doing it, because people might be scared away by rates and things like that. But what it comes down to is total cost, and what you're saying is the value and the total cost. The value's higher, total cost is lower than if you went a different route.
You have to take it one step at a time, and I think that you can, if you have a good enough idea and you have enough validation behind it, you can raise money. And you would be better suited to raise more money and build a better product as long as you know that what you're building is the right thing.
Right.
And if you know that what you're building is the right thing, then it is better to invest into building a very, very good product than it is to, put that money elsewhere.
Right, or maybe cut corners and maybe not build the best product.
Correct.
So that you can do it with less money.
Yep, and there's some disclaimers to that. You can't wait till you have the best product to launch.
Right.
If you wait until you have the best product to launch, you're never going to launch.
Right.
And you're never going to get to the point where you have the best product because you're not going to get the feedback that you need in order to get to the best product.
Right. So you're caught in this perpetual catch-22.
Yep. You have to launch an MVP, and you have to get feedback, and you have to have a team who's willing to go out there and get that feedback and struggle for a little bit, because you're not probably going to be doing a lot of sales. You're going to be doing a lot of learning so that you can provide that back to your customer or to your developers. And then in doing that, you can, over time, get to the point where you build a really great product. And for us, that's step 3 of my 4-part process to be able to get this launched has taken about 9 months.
Right.
So
if you were to do this all over again, how many months could we have cut off this couple of years that we've been working together?
I believe that we could have, I think we'll see with
6 to 9 months, maybe.
I think we'll see exactly how much that's going to be with the next iteration that's being built. And I think the difference in the way that we're going about that is I have more people who are helping me build it today, from a standpoint of clients who have verified the need, who are actively looking at prototypes. I have more in-depth prototypes. I know that the second that I give the green light to start building, that they're building
the right thing,
closer to the right thing.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be exactly right. But I know that we're starting from a higher baseline than we were when we started at the beginning of this. So the more early partnerships that you can get of clients who see the need enough that they're willing to help you build it, not like 2 meetings, like a meeting a month to show an update on the prototype and say, yes, no, like this, don't like this.
Just one thing that they say could save you $10,000.
Exactly. So that is the biggest thing that I would do differently, and that we are doing differently, that I think you can shave time off. And then I also just personally, I think I'm better at fundraising, and I have more connections. I have more credibility to what we've done.
Right.
So, like, if there's someone else who's out there who's not 21 years old when they started and has a track record, and you have the capacity to raise funds, I would over raise on what you think it's going to take to build it, because you're going to want to give yourself extra months to be
Right.
able to make those iterations that you're going to need to get that
And help you
built.
focus on the right things rather than
Correct.
worrying about where the next penny is coming from. You can focus on really
Correct.
building and growing your business.
And then that comes with a disclaimer as well, because I also think people who overfund too much spend money on the wrong things.
Right.
So it's a balancing game, but I think that's part of the fun of it, and that's where, you know, experience will give you that.
Right. Cool. Well, I appreciate the plug.
Yeah.
It's been fun and really rewarding, and I'm really proud of what we've done.
Yeah, it's only gonna get better. Like some of the things that we have up our sleeve here in the next couple months, I think are really gonna blow people away. And
Right.
I know that the product that we have today is genuinely the best product on the market for our target customer.
Right. Wow.
And that target customer, with what we're about to do, is going to get expanded.
Well, these 2 years have been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what the next couple of years have to offer. So
I agree.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.